Thank you for spending your time with Listen and Imagine. We hope this journey sparked your thoughts and stirred your imagination. The Government Hides Alien Contact, 10-part series. Part 1, A Silent Sky. Why we're asking the wrong questions. Have you ever stared up at the night sky? I mean, really stared. Not just a passing glance while getting into your car or walking the dog, but actually stopped, looked up, and felt something deep inside you stir? That quiet pull, that strange feeling that we're part of something so much bigger than we understand? And yet, it's so quiet up there. Too quiet. They say space is silent because there's no air to carry sound. But maybe it's silent because someone wants it that way. We've been asking the same question for decades. Are we alone in the universe? But maybe that's not the question we should be asking. Maybe the real question is, why haven't we heard back? Or, what if we already did and no one told us? Let's start with the basics. There are over 100 billion planets in our galaxy alone. Not the universe, just the Milky Way. And now, thanks to telescopes like Kepler and James Webb, we know that thousands of those planets are in what's called the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for life. Mathematically speaking, it's nearly impossible for us to be the only intelligent species out there. But if that's the case, where is everybody? Why haven't we picked up a signal? Why haven't they landed on the White House lawn like in the movies? Or did they, and we just didn't see it? In 1961, a man named Frank Drake came up with something called the Drake equation. It's a formula meant to estimate the number of civilizations in our galaxy capable of communication. Depending on the variables you plug in, rate of star formation, number of planets, likelihood of life, you don't just get one or two. You get thousands, millions, maybe more. Now here's where it gets weird. Statistically, we should have heard something by now. A radio wave, a pulse, a flicker of light. But instead, silence. Astronomers call it the Great Silence, or more dramatically, the Fermi Paradox, named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who famously asked, "Where is everybody?" So again, I ask, is it really that quiet out there? Or are we just being told it is? Let's look at what's been officially released. In 2020, amid a global pandemic and political chaos, the Pentagon casually dropped a bombshell. Yes, we've seen craft that defy known physics. They didn't call them UFOs. They used the term UAPs, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. Sounds fancy. But make no mistake, we're talking about flying objects captured on military radar, moving in ways that shouldn't be physically possible. Sudden 90-degree turns, acceleration from 0 to thousands of miles per hour instantly, no visible propulsion. If you've seen the videos, gimbal, go fast, and FLIR 1, you know what I mean. These aren't weather balloons or drones, these are something else. And yet the government didn't say much else. No follow-up, no explanation, just, yeah, they're real. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Why? Why reveal that now? And why with so little context? It almost feels like a test, a slow drip, letting us get used to the idea without ever telling us the full truth. Now, here's a question for you. If the government knew we'd made contact with extraterrestrial life, would they even tell us? Think about it. Religious panic, economic collapse, mass hysteria, the destruction of long-held belief systems, the loss of control. You don't just drop a truth bomb like that on a planet already struggling to trust its leaders, its media, or even each other. So instead, maybe you deny it. You explain it away. You bury it under military jargon, swamp gas, and weather balloons. You wait for attention to move on, and then maybe, just maybe, you prepare people slowly through science fiction, media, Hollywood, E.T., Contact, Arrival, The X-Files. Is it coincidence or conditioning? But let's go deeper. What if the silence isn't just about them not reaching out? What if someone is actively jamming the signal? After all, most major radio telescopes are government funded. Access to deep space communication is tightly monitored. Civilian researchers often find their work censored, or worse, mysteriously shut down. What are we not supposed to hear? Or who? Here's another thing to consider. In almost every ancient civilization, Sumerians, Egyptians, Mayans, Native Americans, there are stories of beings from the sky. They came down in ships, they taught humanity agriculture, astronomy, math. They were worshipped as gods. Sound familiar? It's as if we've been visited before, but instead of calling them aliens, we called them angels, deities, watchers. Now imagine those same beings came back, not to enslave us, not to destroy us, but simply to observe. Would those in power welcome that, or would they fear it? Because if a higher intelligence is watching us, they might be watching our leaders too. So we're left with the silence. But maybe silence doesn't mean absence. Maybe silence is strategy, or warning, or control. So I'll leave you with this. What if the sky has never been silent? What if we've just been trained not to listen? Or worse, taught not to ask? We'll continue in part 2, Roswell, the birthplace of secrecy. But until then, look up and ask yourself, what aren't they telling us? Part 2, Roswell, the birthplace of secrecy, July 1947. A rancher named Mac Brazel is riding across the scrubland outside Roswell, New Mexico, when he sees something strange in the dirt. Scattered across the desert are odd pieces of metal, lightweight, flexible, sharp-edged. Some shimmer in the sun like aluminum foil, but bounce back to their original shape when bent. Others are inscribed with symbols he can't recognize. Not English, not Russian, not anything. He gathers a few pieces, loads them on his truck, and reports the incident to the local sheriff. That's when everything begins to spiral. The U.S. Army Air Force gets involved almost immediately. They close off the area, collect every shard, interview witnesses. Then just one day later, something shocking happens. The Roswell Army Airfield issues a press release. The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc. A flying disc. A literal flying saucer. The story goes out across national media. Front page headlines declare, RAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. But 24 hours later, the story changes. Suddenly, it wasn't a flying disc. It was a weather balloon. Just a misidentified balloon. Nothing to see here. The Army even holds a press conference and displays a crumpled pile of foil, rubber, and sticks. This, they say, is all it was. And just like that, the biggest story of the century vanishes from public attention. But those who saw the original wreckage, they never forgot. So here's the argument. Roswell wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a containment, a cover-up, the beginning of a playbook used to hide contact from the public. And the pieces of that cover-up still don't add up. Let's start with Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer who first examined the debris. He was the one who brought the material to base, the man who delivered the press release. Decades later, long after he retired, Marcel gave an interview. This time, he wasn't under military orders. He said flatly, "It was not a damn weather balloon. I handled the wreckage myself. The material was not of this earth." He wasn't the only one. Civilians who handled the debris described it as memory metal, paper-thin, unbreakable, and shape-shifting. Engineers in 1947 had no way to create such a substance. Even today, materials with similar properties are experimental and extremely rare. So if it was just a balloon, why were dozens of witnesses sworn to secrecy? Why did some report being threatened by military police if they spoke up? Why the fear? Now, skeptics will tell you the Roswell debris was part of Project Mogul, a classified Cold War effort to use high-altitude balloons to detect Soviet nuclear tests. But here's the problem with that theory. Project Mogul wasn't declassified until the 1990s, nearly 50 years later. If it was just a balloon, why keep it secret for half a century? And more importantly, why change the story in the first place? You don't go from, "We found a flying saucer," to, "Oops, it's a weather balloon," unless something spooked you. Something big. Let's step into the scientific angle for a moment. If alien technology had crashed in Roswell, what would the military's logical response be? Step 1, secure the site. Step 2, collect and analyze the wreckage. Step 3, reverse engineer anything you can. Step 4, control the narrative. In 1947, the US was the only country with nuclear weapons. The Cold War was heating up. If this technology, whatever it was, could be weaponized, it couldn't fall into enemy hands, or public ones. What's the fastest way to erase a world-changing event? Tell the world it never happened. And it worked. For a while. Roswell faded from public consciousness until the late 1970s when researchers and former military personnel began speaking out. Books, documentaries, even congressional inquiries followed. Today, the Roswell incident is so embedded in pop culture that people roll their eyes when they hear it. Aliens? Oh, you mean like Roswell? But isn't that the cleverest kind of secrecy? turn the truth into a joke, mock the believers, make conspiracy a dirty word, and watch the world look away. Now consider this. Roswell happened just 2 years after World War II. At the time, humanity had just unlocked the atom. The world had witnessed destruction on an unimaginable scale. Is it so far-fetched to believe that someone might have been watching us? And if they were, if they landed, and if we shot them down or recovered their vessel, how would our leaders respond? Would they trust the public to handle that truth, or would they do everything possible to control it? Here's another curious detail. In the years after Roswell, the U.S. military began developing top-secret aircraft in New Mexico and Nevada, unmarked hangars, new bases, limited access. The birth of Area 51. Coincidence or a natural next step? I'll leave you with this thought. What if the Roswell crash didn't just mark first contact? What if it marked the beginning of an entirely new era of secrecy? One where governments don't deny the existence of aliens. They deny that we ever met them. Part 3. Area 51, the base that doesn't exist. Let's play a game. Close your eyes and imagine a secret government base hidden deep in the desert, a place surrounded by fences, signs warning of deadly force, and miles of nothing but rock, sand, and sun. No tourists, no press, no acknowledgement it even exists. Now open your eyes. You're thinking of Area 51, aren't you? Funny thing is, for decades, the US government insisted that Area 51 wasn't real. Maps erased it. Officials deflected questions. It was a ghost. But it existed. And that simple lie, that denial of a place we now know is real, was just the beginning. So if they hid the existence of the base for so long, what else have they hidden inside it? Located in Groom Lake, Nevada, Area 51 is nestled within the most secure airspace in the world. It's a place where black projects are born, experimental aircraft, stealth fighters, drone tech, or so they say. Because there's a darker legend surrounding Area 51. A legend that says inside those hangars, we're not just building technology, we're taking it apart, studying it, replicating it, alien technology. Let's go back to 1989 when a man named Bob Lazar went public in a now infamous interview with Las Vegas news anchor George Knapp. Lazar claimed he had worked at a facility called S4 just south of Area 51. According to him, S4 was dedicated to reverse engineering alien spacecraft recovered by the government. He didn't just say they had a ship, he said they had 9, each one with different propulsion systems, each one powered by a mysterious element unknown to Earth at the time, something he called Element 115. Lazar described a gravity-based propulsion system, no jets, no combustion. Instead, the craft generated its own gravitational field, bending space-time to move. Science fiction? Maybe. But here's the twist. In 1989, Element 115 didn't exist in the periodic table. Fast forward to 2003. Scientists in Russia and the US officially synthesized Element 115, now called moscovium. It's unstable, decaying quickly, but Lazar claimed the version used at S4 was a stable isotope unknown to public science. Coincidence or evidence? Now, critics say Lazar's education and employment history are hard to verify. MIT and Caltech say he never studied there. Los Alamos denies employing him. But he appeared in a Los Alamos lab directory in the 80s. And there are witnesses who say they saw him working there. So who's lying? And why? Let's ask a better question. If someone stumbled into the biggest secret in human history, wouldn't you erase them too? The story doesn't end with Lazar. Since the 1990s, hundreds of witnesses, engineers, pilots, military insiders, have come forward with eerily similar stories about Area 51. They speak of crafts that hover silently, make right-angle turns midair, disappear in flashes of light. They describe biological specimens, strange labs, and underground tunnels. Even the government has admitted that Area 51 was used for developing U-2 spy planes and stealth bombers, projects that were once considered alien to the average person because the tech was so advanced. So again, we ask, where does cutting-edge innovation end and reverse-engineered alien tech begin? From a scientific perspective, Lazar's gravity propulsion idea isn't impossible. It's just ahead of its time. Theoretical physics allows for warp drives, gravity manipulation, even space-time bending, concepts being seriously studied by institutions like NASA and DARPA today. Lazar wasn't wrong. He was early. And perhaps that's why they tried to shut him down. Now let's look at how aggressively the government protects Area 51. Try getting close. You'll hit warning signs miles out. Use of deadly force authorized. Military trucks, surveillance cameras, sensors in the sand that detect footsteps. You don't protect nothing with that level of security. And in 2013, after decades of denial, the CIA finally admitted Area 51 was real. They claimed it was for aircraft testing. But why lie for over 50 years about its existence? Why now? Why admit only a sliver of the truth? Pop culture has tried to answer these questions for us. Movies like Independence Day, X-Files, Area 51 itself. They paint the picture of a facility where aliens are kept, autopsied, and negotiated with. Absurd, maybe? Or maybe pop culture's permission to imagine what we've already accepted as fiction. Because here's the scary part. The government has never said, we don't study aliens at Area 51. They've only ever said, there's no proof. That's a careful phrase, a legal phrase. A phrase that leaves the door just slightly open. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Area 51 may not be the end of the story. It might just be the beginning. What if the real alien research was moved years ago? What if Area 51 is the decoy, a relic for the curious, while the real work happens somewhere deeper, more hidden? Ever heard of Dulce Base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base? Underground facilities beneath the Denver airport? But we'll save those for another time. For now, ask yourself this. If Area 51 was hidden for half a century, what else has been kept from us? And if they've been hiding aircraft, what if they've been hiding visitors too? Part 4. Astronauts Speak Out. Voices from Beyond Earth. Let's be honest. When it comes to aliens, most people roll their eyes unless the story comes from someone official, someone trained, respected, vetted by science and discipline, someone like an astronaut. Because if there's anyone we should believe when they say something strange is out there, it's the people who've actually been there. Think about it. Astronauts aren't bloggers or conspiracy theorists. They're highly educated, psychologically screened, physically elite individuals who've spent years preparing to leave Earth's atmosphere. They're the best of us. They've looked down on this planet from above. They've floated in the void, alone and aware in a way no average person can comprehend. And some of them, some of the most decorated space travelers in human history, have come back with stories. Stories that don't fit the official narrative. Stories that raise questions. Let's start with Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, a Navy captain, an astronaut on Apollo 14, a man who stared at the Earth from nearly 240,000 miles away. After retiring from NASA, Mitchell became vocal about one thing: we are not alone, and the U.S. government knows it. He claimed that top military officials had long been aware of extraterrestrial visits to Earth. He spoke of crash recoveries, of alien craft being examined at secure bases, and of a decades-long cover-up that continues to this day. His exact words: yes, there has been ET visitation, there have been crashed craft, there have been bodies recovered. Let that sink in. Not a sci-fi writer, not a YouTuber, a moonwalker. But he wasn't alone. Gordon Cooper, one of the original Mercury astronauts and the first American to sleep in space, told a similar story. In a 1978 letter to the United Nations, Cooper wrote about a UFO landing at Edwards Air Force Base, captured on film by a military camera crew in the 1950s. He said he personally developed the film, saw the craft, and watched as the entire incident was classified and buried. He also testified under oath that he had seen multiple high-speed craft performing maneuvers far beyond any known technology, and these sightings were reported, documented, and dismissed. Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, spoke publicly about a strange light that followed the Apollo 11 capsule during its journey. NASA later explained it away as a detached panel. But Aldrin, with typical military calm, said, "We weren't sure what it was. We decided not to say anything immediately to avoid panic." That's right. The astronauts themselves chose silence, fearing that the world wasn't ready for the truth. Does that sound like transparency or quiet control? Now, skeptics will say these stories are taken out of context, that these men never said they saw aliens, just unexplained phenomena. But here's the thing. In the language of the military, you don't say alien, you say UAP, or anomalous contact. You protect your credibility. You don't scream from the rooftops, you plant seeds. And if you listen closely, you'll hear the same message again and again. Something's out there, we've seen it, and we weren't allowed to talk about it. Let's talk science. From space, Earth is a glowing marble in the black. Astronauts have often described what's called the overview effect, a cognitive shift that happens when you view Earth from above. Borders vanish, politics disappear. You realize the fragility of life and the vastness beyond. That perspective changes people, it opens them, it removes filters. Maybe that's why so many astronauts have come home and spoken up, because once you've seen Earth from space, you realize just how small the official story really is. Let's connect a few dots. Multiple astronauts report strange encounters in orbit. Military pilots see the same phenomena within Earth's skies. Civilians around the world capture footage that mirrors those sightings. Governments respond with silence or ridicule. Why? If it's all explainable, weather balloons, reflections, satellites, why the secrecy? Why do so many former NASA personnel speak only after they retire? Why not publicly investigate these claims? Why are we taught to trust astronauts, except when they talk about this? Let's go further. In 2005, Leroy Chiao, commander of the International Space Station, reported seeing a line of lights fly past the station at incredible speed. He described it as unlike anything he'd ever witnessed. And in 2013, former Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer made headlines when he stated plainly that several alien species have been visiting Earth for decades, and world governments know it. He wasn't laughed off stage. He was interviewed, invited, respected. Why? Because people in power know the truth is too big to ignore forever. So we have to ask, why haven't active astronauts come forward more forcefully? Maybe it's the non-disclosure agreements. Maybe it's the threat to careers, pensions, families, or maybe, just maybe, it's because they know that the public isn't ready for what's really out there. Not yet. Here's the question I want you to sit with. If the men who walked on the moon, orbited the Earth, and lived in space tell you that something strange is out there, do you believe them? Or do you believe the government that once said Area 51 didn't exist? Part 5. The Majestic 12. The Hidden Council. Some conspiracies sound too elaborate to be real. A secret council of military generals, scientists, and intelligence officials handpicked by a U.S. president to manage all extraterrestrial contact sounds like something out of a Cold War thriller. But what if I told you there are documents, there are names, and there are witnesses who claim this group not only existed, but may still operate to this day? They called it Majestic 12, and it might just be the single most powerful organization you've never heard of. Let's rewind to 1947. You remember that year by now. It's when something crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. A weather balloon, they said, a flying saucer, others insisted. Whatever it was, it triggered the modern UFO phenomenon. But behind the scenes, that crash may have done more than just stir headlines. According to leaked documents from the 1980s, in the immediate aftermath of the Roswell incident, President Harry S. Truman authorized the formation of a covert group to manage and conceal all evidence of alien encounters. That group was codenamed Majestic 12. The alleged MJ-12 briefing documents, mailed anonymously to filmmaker Amy Shandera in 1984, included memos, orders, and reports stamped secret, Magic Eyes Only. Inside, a memo dated November 18, 1952, signed by President Truman, authorizing the formation of Majestic 12. The members? A who's who of military-industrial America. Rear Admiral Roscoe Hillenkoetter, the first CIA director. Dr. Vannevar Bush, scientific advisor to the president during World War II. General Nathan Twining, head of the U.S. Air Force Material Command. 12 in all. Scientists, generals, intelligence minds. Tasked with one thing, the recovery, evaluation, and containment of extraterrestrial material and biological entities. Sounds wild, right? But here's where it gets complicated. Skeptics called the MJ-12 documents a hoax. The FBI said they were bogus. The Air Force dismissed them entirely. But dig a little deeper, and things get murky. Some of the names and signatures match real historical records. Some of the events mentioned align perfectly with declassified timelines. Even weirder? The NSA, when requested to release all MJ-12-related documents under the Freedom of Information Act, refused, claiming national security. Wait, if it's fake, why classify fake documents? Here's another twist. In 2001, Dr. Robert Wood, a former McDonnell Douglas aerospace engineer, launched a forensic analysis of the MJ-12 documents. He tested paper composition, ink aging, typeface alignment, all the hallmarks of government documentation from the 1940s and 50s. His conclusion: if these are fakes, they are extremely good ones, too good for a civilian to pull off. So the question isn't just whether the documents are real, it's why the government tried so hard to bury them. Let's say for a moment that Majestic 12 was real. What would their mission be? Control the narrative about UFO sightings, coordinate crash retrievals like Roswell and beyond, oversee contact protocols with alien intelligences, keep it all secret at any cost. Some believe Majestic 12 is the root of Project Blue Book, Operation Grudge, and other government efforts to explain away UFOs. Others think the group still exists, operating under a new name, deep within the Pentagon, the NSA, or even in private aerospace companies. Hidden, untouchable, unaccountable. Think this sounds like fiction? Let's look at some recent history. In 2017, the U.S. government revealed the existence of AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a secret $22 million Pentagon project that investigated UFOs for over a decade. They told the public it ended in 2012, but insiders say it just changed names and went dark again. A familiar pattern, right? Create the program, study the threat, hide the results. Is AATIP the modern-day MJ-12? Is there still a council making decisions for the planet without public consent? The late Senator Barry Goldwater, a former Air Force Major General and presidential candidate, once admitted he tried to gain access to the files at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the rumored location of crash retrieval evidence. He was told flatly, "You do not have clearance, and don't ask again." Even a senator, even a general, denied. Who has the authority to shut down a man like Goldwater? Only someone above public government, only something like Majestic 12. Now let's talk science for a moment. What would be the logic behind a need-to-know-only committee? Protect national security from technological disruption. Avoid mass panic or religious upheaval. Maintain control of recovered technology before rivals do. From a cold logic standpoint, it makes sense. But from a democratic standpoint, it's terrifying. Because it means we are not the people in charge of our own planet anymore. Here's what keeps me up at night. If MJ-12 was created in 1947, what have they been doing for the last 75 years? How many contacts? How many crashes? How many recovered beings? And more importantly, how many decisions have been made without us ever knowing? So here's the final question. What if disclosure won't come from the government? What if it has to come from us? From those who dare to ask, investigate, and dig? Because maybe the real reason Majestic 12 exists isn't to protect us. Maybe it's to protect the secret itself. Part 6, Reverse Engineering. Alien Tech in Our Hands. Let's play a game of imagination. You're a military recovery team. It's July 1947. You're standing in a field near Roswell, New Mexico, and scattered across the desert are pieces of a craft made of metal you've never seen before. It's impossibly light. It doesn't burn. It bends and then snaps right back into place like it's alive. Inside, strange panels, symbols, circuits that don't resemble anything made by man. You report it up the chain. The order comes fast. Lock it down. No one talks. But you know what happens next isn't just about secrets. It's about opportunity. Because if you're the first to possess non-human technology, you might just become the most powerful nation on Earth. This is the theory of reverse engineering. The idea that the U.S. government, possibly through covert programs and defense contractors, has spent the last 70-plus years studying, replicating, and weaponizing technology recovered from alien craft. Sounds crazy? Let's take a closer look. We'll start with the timeline. 1947, Roswell crash. 1949, Project Grudge is launched, a military effort to assess UFO threats. 1952, sightings over Washington, D.C. Military radar scrambles jets. The public panics. 1954, according to whistleblowers, the U.S. begins secret agreements with extraterrestrials, tech in exchange for silence. 1955, Lockheed Skunk Works develops the U-2 spy plane, pushing the boundaries of aviation. 1960s, Blackbird SR-71 reaches speeds and altitudes unheard of. Some say it was built using reverse-engineered propulsion concepts that had nothing to do with standard jet engines. Coincidence? or the beginning of breakthroughs we were never supposed to understand. Here's where it gets more interesting. In 2019, a former defense intelligence official named Luis Elizondo, who ran the Pentagon's AA-type program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, stated publicly, "There are craft we believe that were not made on this earth." He wasn't speculating. He declassified files. He's not the only one. In 2023, David Grush, a decorated Air Force veteran and intelligence officer, testified under oath to Congress that the U.S. is in possession of non-human origin spacecraft. Multiple private defense contractors are involved in reverse engineering these materials. People have been harmed to keep the secret buried. That's not sci-fi. That's federal testimony. Let's pause. Imagine the implications. If a non-human craft is retrieved, even one, what kind of breakthroughs could be made? Gravity manipulation, electromagnetic propulsion, advanced materials stronger and lighter than titanium. Quantum computing beyond anything we know. Now ask yourself, how did we go from vacuum tubes and prop planes in the 1940s to smartphones, stealth jets, fiber optics, and quantum processors in just one generation? Could it be human ingenuity alone, or did we get a little help? Let's zoom in on one example. Fiber optics. Today, they're the backbone of our internet, our medical tools, and even weapons systems. But in 1967, Corning Glass suddenly developed glass fibers capable of carrying light signals with almost no loss. What did they use? A compound unknown to the public at the time, rare earth elements and doped silicates. Where did this idea come from? Coincidentally, it mirrors material descriptions from Roswell witnesses who described thread-like wires carrying pulses of light through alien wreckage. In fact, former Army Colonel Philip Corso, in his 1997 book, The Day After Roswell, claimed that technology from the crash was ceded to defense contractors like Bell Labs, IBM, and Hughes Aircraft to replicate and adapt. He even detailed how night vision, laser technology, and Kevlar were all fast-tracked after Roswell. Dismissed as fiction? Sure. But let's not forget, Corso worked in Eisenhower's National Security Council. He wasn't a nobody. What about anti-gravity? You've probably heard the whispers. Military insiders describing craft that make right-angle turns at Mach 10 without sonic booms or visible propulsion. Physics says that should kill any pilot instantly, unless it's using a different kind of energy, one that cancels inertia, one that bends space-time. Whistleblower Bob Lazar, who claimed in 1989 to have worked at S4 near Area 51, said he was hired to study a gravitic propulsion system powered by element 115, a substance unknown at the time. In 2003, scientists synthesized element 115, later named moscovium. Another coincidence? Or a leak of something already known to military scientists? Now let's get serious. If we've been reverse engineering alien tech for decades, where's the public version? Why aren't we using it to cure cancer or feed the world? The answer might be uncomfortable. This tech, if real, could be the ultimate weapon, and weapons don't get shared, especially not with the people. So who holds the keys? Not elected officials, not your local congressperson, but private aerospace giants. Untouchable, unelected, deeply embedded in the military-industrial complex. Think Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. They don't answer to voters. They answer to contracts. Some believe this is why disclosure is so difficult, because the truth isn't just about aliens. It's about power, control, technology that can reshape civilization or destroy it. Let's end with a question. If we've held alien technology for decades, if it's already in our skies, quietly tested above deserts and oceans, then what are we waiting for? Why pretend? Why keep it secret? Unless we've already crossed the line, unless we're using the tech, unless disclosure isn't about revealing contact, it's about admitting we've become something else. Part 7, The Abduction Files, Human Experiments and the Unspoken Deal. You wake up in your bed, but something feels wrong. Your body is paralyzed, your mind is alert, there's a soft humming in the air, a figure appears, a silhouette with large black eyes, cold, expressionless. The next thing you remember, you're back in bed. Hours have passed, you can't explain it. But a mark is left behind, a scar, a memory, a violation. Thousands of people across countries and decades have described this exact experience. Different languages, same details, no connection between them, yet the stories match. Alien abduction. It's one of the most chilling, ridiculed, and misunderstood elements in the entire UFO phenomenon. But what if it's not just hallucination? What if it's part of a long-standing agreement, a bargain between governments and extraterrestrial visitors, one that we, the people, were never meant to know? Let's rewind to the 1950s. According to leaked documents and whistleblower testimony, President Dwight D. Eisenhower allegedly held a secret meeting in 1954 with an alien race at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. He vanished from public schedule for hours. The official story? He chipped a tooth and had to see a dentist. But insiders, like former U.S. Navy Commander William Cooper, claimed Eisenhower wasn't at the dentist. He was negotiating. And the terms? We would allow limited abductions in exchange for technology. Terrifying? Absolutely. But from a Cold War perspective, maybe even strategic. The aliens, reportedly the Greys, promised, "We will not harm, we only wish to study." But the deal came with a cost. Soon after, reports of human abductions skyrocketed. People from rural farms in Kentucky, families in Arizona, couples driving late at night in Vermont. One of the most famous cases, Betty and Barney Hill, 1961. A mixed-race couple in New Hampshire, they experienced missing time after spotting a strange object in the sky. Under hypnosis, both described being taken aboard a craft, examined medically, and shown a star map. They never sought fame. They were terrified, and their story launched a wave of similar testimonies, many nearly identical in structure and detail. Bright lights, loss of time, medical procedures, needles, tissue samples, reproductive exams, a feeling of being watched ever since. Coincidence or consistency? Dr. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner, studied over 200 abductees. He wasn't a UFO guy, he was a scientist, a skeptic. But his conclusion? These experiences are real, not delusional, not fabrications. He was ridiculed, pressured by Harvard, but stood firm. Why would hundreds of people, young, old, educated, poor, risk their reputations to lie? Some were deeply traumatized, others reported implants, tiny objects beneath the skin that defied analysis or even detection by conventional imaging. Surgeons like Dr. Roger Lear extracted dozens of these foreign materials from patients over the years. Lab results? Unknown alloys. Magnetic properties? No signs of inflammation, as if the body accepted the implant. So what's going on? Are these biological experiments? Genetic harvesting? Or something deeper? Some abductees reported being shown hybrid children, part human, part gray, gestating in artificial wombs. One woman, Linda, under hypnosis, described being brought to a room where a half-human infant was presented to her. They said he was mine, but he wasn't. Not really. Disturbing? Beyond words. But here's the twist. These stories are global. From Peru to Japan, Nigeria to Sweden, different people describing the same scenes, often without knowing one another or even speaking the same language. How can that be explained? Mass psychosis? Or a pattern hidden in plain sight? Here's where the government might come in. If abductions are happening, and if they know, why stay silent? The answer might lie in the theory of non-interference disclosure. In short, the government can't stop the abductions, but they can monitor, collect data, and manage the narrative. In return, they receive tech, propulsion secrets, perhaps even bioengineering knowledge. In the 1980s, the infamous MJ-12 documents surfaced, suggesting the existence of a secret committee overseeing alien-human relations. Their goal? Containment of public panic, protection of classified operations, technological leverage. True or fake? The government called them a hoax, but several signatures on those documents were later confirmed to be authentic, including those of senior CIA and NSA personnel. So if they were fake, why did the FBI investigate them as if they were classified leaks? Think about that. Now consider this. What if the real reason for delayed disclosure isn't fear of aliens? What if it's fear of accountability? If it ever comes out that governments allowed millions of people to be experimented on without consent for decades? That isn't just a scandal. That's a crime against humanity, a global one. Let's close with a chilling question. If the government made a deal, if abductions are the cost of alien technology, then who gets to decide who's taken? You, me, someone you love? And more importantly, is the deal still in place? Or did the aliens stop asking for permission a long time ago? Part 8, Hybrid Programs. Are we still entirely human? What does it mean to be human? Is it our DNA, our thoughts, the way we love, or the way we evolve? Now imagine this. What if we're no longer entirely human? What if, somewhere along the way, without our permission, our species was altered? For decades, abductees have reported chillingly consistent encounters, not just probes or scans, but something deeper. They speak of being forced into medical experiments, of eggs harvested, sperm collected, of being shown children, not quite alien, not quite human. They told me the child was mine, one woman said under hypnosis. But I didn't feel like a mother. I felt like a lab rat. These aren't isolated events. Thousands of people across continents have said the same thing. Hybrid programs. And if what they're saying is true, the consequences go beyond just a cover-up. We're talking about the forced evolution of the human race. Let's connect the dots. In Fun 7, we explored the theory that governments struck secret deals, allowing extraterrestrials to perform abductions in exchange for advanced technology. But some researchers believe that was just phase 1. The real goal, to create a new species, one that could survive both on Earth and elsewhere, one that combines human emotion with alien intellect. Dr. David Jacobs, a respected historian at Temple University, interviewed hundreds of abductees over 30 years. He didn't start as a believer, he just followed the data. And what he uncovered was terrifying. Abductions aren't random, they follow patterns. And they're producing a hybrid population that's slowly entering into human society. He called them hybrids, hybrids that look human, talk human, even act human, but aren't. Many abductees describe encounters with these beings. They seem awkward, like they're studying how to be human. They ask questions like, what is love? Or how do you eat in public? They're emotionless, but intelligent, almost too intelligent. Some report being trained or mentally bonded with a specific hybrid since childhood. One woman in Dr. Jacobs' study said, he told me one day he would live here and I'd have to help him fit in. Think about that. A non-human entity preparing to live among us, using a human as a guide. This isn't science fiction. These are first-hand, repeated accounts from people with no history of delusion or fame-seeking. You might wonder, where's the proof? In recent years, scientists have discovered strange anomalies in human DNA, segments that don't appear to match any known lineage, non-coding DNA that serves no clear purpose or has no earthly origin. Could this be the result of genetic tampering? In 2013, a Harvard study concluded that human DNA contains elements that do not fit standard evolutionary patterns. Of course, the official stance is that it's all junk DNA. But ask yourself, do advanced civilizations leave junk in the code? Or are we looking at deliberate modifications, like genetic watermarks? And if someone or something has been editing our blueprint, who's really writing our story? Now, here's where things get even stranger. Some abductees claim they were taken not to ships, but to underground facilities, large, sterile, and military-run. They describe being escorted by both aliens and humans in uniform. They were shown rows of hybrid children. In one case, a man said, "The child looked into my eyes and I felt something, like it knew me, like we were connected, but I didn't understand how." If these stories are true, then this isn't just an alien agenda. It's a covert partnership spanning decades, possibly longer. What's the goal? Here are 3 theories. Colonization through assimilation. Rather than invade Earth, hybrids are grown and slowly integrated, taking over from the inside. Genetic salvation. Aliens have lost the ability to reproduce or feel. They need us to restore their lineage. Next stage evolution. Humanity is being shaped into something new, smarter, stronger, more adaptable, whether we like it or not. And here's a disturbing thought. If hybrids already walk among us, how would we know? They could be in schools, offices, government, even our homes. Let's pause for a moment. This is heavy stuff, but let's not forget, science has already blurred the line between species. We've cloned animals, mixed human DNA with mice for research, even grown human brain tissue inside pigs. If we are doing that now, what might a civilization a million years ahead of us be capable of? And more importantly, would they tell us? So here we are, a world where alien DNA may already be flowing through human veins, a government that may have traded our genetic rights for silicon chips, and a future where the next generation may not be entirely ours. Before we wrap, let me ask you, when you look into someone's eyes, someone who seems just a bit off, a little too perfect, or a little too cold, ask yourself, are they fully human? Or are we already living in the post-human age without even realizing it? Part 9, Silencing the Truth, Disappearances, Threats, and the Price of Disclosure. Let me ask you something personal. If you discovered something world-changing, terrifying, and real, would you tell the world? Would you shout it from the rooftops? Now think again. If you knew that speaking out might cost you everything, your job, your freedom, your life, that's the chilling reality faced by whistleblowers, scientists, and witnesses who've tried to expose the truth about alien contact. Because the real question isn't why haven't more people come forward, it's what happened to those who did. The pattern is unmistakable. Witness sees something, tries to go public, suddenly silenced. Let's talk about Phil Schneider. He was a former government geologist and explosive engineer who worked on secret underground bases, like the infamous Dulce base in New Mexico. In the mid-90s, Schneider gave public lectures claiming he had survived a firefight with extraterrestrials in a government-built facility deep beneath the Earth. He showed scars, X-rays, medical documents. He said flat out, there's a war going on underground and the government is in on it. In 1996, just months after a series of speeches, he was found dead in his apartment, officially ruled a suicide. But here's the kicker. He was found with a rubber catheter tightly wrapped around his neck in a way no one could replicate without help. His files, missing. His research, destroyed. The mainstream media, silent. Then there's Dr. Carla Turner, a respected academic turned abduction researcher. She investigated cases where abductees were being physically marked, followed, and even threatened after their experiences. Her conclusions were disturbing. This wasn't just random alien contact. It was organized, systematic, and monitored by human intelligence agencies. In her final book, she wrote, "The implications of this are huge. We are dealing with a program that involves both aliens and elements of our own government." Shortly after, Dr. Turner was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer and died within a year. Coincidence? Some think not. And what about Gary McKinnon, the British hacker who breached NASA and Pentagon systems in the early 2000s? He claimed to have found a list of non-terrestrial officers, logs of off-world transfers, images of strange spacecraft never shown to the public. He didn't sell the info. He didn't leak it. He just talked about it. The U.S. government tried for years to extradite him under terrorism charges. Terrorism for downloading pictures and spreadsheets? Why the overkill? Unless he found something real. Let's step back. Why would anyone go to such lengths to silence these people if there was nothing to hide? Why the surveillance, the threats, the sudden deaths? We know that disinformation campaigns were officially sanctioned during the Cold War. We know about Project Mockingbird, where the CIA planted agents inside U.S. newsrooms. We know about COINTELPRO, where activists were tracked, framed, or worse. Is it really such a stretch to believe a UFO truth suppression campaign exists? One with far higher stakes. Now let's apply some scientific logic. Information control is not new. Governments suppress intel for national security all the time. Nuclear secrets, spy networks, bioweapons. Why wouldn't alien contact fall under that umbrella? If alien technology exists, it could collapse energy markets, destroy religious frameworks, undermine global trust in authority. So ask yourself, would they protect the truth or protect their power? Here's another chilling detail. Many whistleblowers report men in black suits visiting them. Not movie characters, real people, anonymous, cold, threatening. They appear out of nowhere, they know details, and they always say the same thing. For your safety, stop talking. In one case, a retired FAA official named John Callahan testified to Congress that he had radar footage of a massive UFO seen by Japanese airlines over Alaska in 1986. He said the CIA took all the tapes and told him, this event never happened, but it did, and the radar logs prove it. So who do we trust? The data or the denials? And finally, there's the psychological side. Many potential whistleblowers never speak out because they've been made to believe they're crazy through ridicule, gaslighting, media mockery. It's one of the oldest tools of disinformation. Make the truth sound ridiculous. Make the truth tellers sound insane. So even when the pieces add up, we still hesitate. But maybe, just maybe, that hesitation is exactly what they want. Because as long as we doubt ourselves, as long as we keep quiet, the truth stays buried. So tonight, ask yourself, how many secrets have died with those too scared to speak? How many truths have vanished into closed caskets? And most importantly, if the truth about alien contact is so absurd, Why does telling it come with a body count? Part 10, The Great Reveal. Are we being prepared for disclosure? Imagine this. One quiet morning, every screen on Earth goes black. Then a single message appears. We are not alone. No warning, no filter, just the truth. Would you panic? Would you feel betrayed? Or would you feel relieved? Because deep down, you already knew. Maybe you've always known. In the last 9 episodes, we've traveled down the rabbit hole. Crashed UFOs, military encounters, government cover-ups, alien abductions, secret treaties, hybrid programs, silencing of truth-tellers. But tonight, we ask the final question. Is full disclosure coming? And if so, who controls it? Let's start here. Why has the government's stance on UFOs shifted so drastically in recent years? For decades, the official line was, nothing to see here, weather balloons, swamp gas, misidentified aircraft. But suddenly, starting in 2017, we get something different. The U.S. Navy releases footage of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. Pilots come forward, Congress holds hearings, the Pentagon creates the ARO, All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Even former officials say there are things we can't explain, and we're investigating. So what changed? Why now? Here's one theory. The truth was never supposed to come out this way. But too many leaks, too many civilian sightings, and too much pressure from insiders forced their hand. So now, the strategy is slow disclosure. Not an announcement, but a drip feed. Declassify one video, release a report with no conclusions, admit something's unknown, but don't say alien. Why? Because people aren't ready? Or because governments aren't ready to lose control? And here's the real twist. What if this slow disclosure isn't just a tactic, but a psychological preparation? A conditioning process. So when the time comes, we'll accept it, not fight it. Movies, TV shows, pop culture. Think about how aliens are everywhere in media now, but always in a certain way. Dangerous but fascinating, hidden but inevitable, just out of reach. Is this coincidence, or are we being gently programmed? Even NASA's language is shifting. In 2020, the agency hired theologians to explore how humans would react to proof of alien life. Not physicists, not engineers, not theologians. Because if alien contact challenges religion, identity, and human origin, that's not just a scientific event, that's a paradigm shift. So what would full disclosure actually look like? Let's look at the possible scenarios. 1. The soft reveal, gradual releases. Government statements, we've detected microbial life on Europa. Then, we've intercepted a signal. Then, they've been visiting us for decades. 2. The crisis disclosure, aliens appear publicly. That's a ship hovers over a city. Governments scramble. Chaos, then calm. A new global order forms around coexistence or control. 3. The controlled disclosure. Only select elites interact with them. The rest of us get a sanitized version. Alien contact is used to expand surveillance, militarization, or propaganda. Truth, bent to serve power. Which future sounds most likely, and which one are we already living in? Here's another thought. What if disclosure has already happened, but only to the few? Presidents, intelligence leaders, billionaires. Maybe the reason we never get a straight answer isn't because they don't know, but because we're not on the list. And yet, some say aliens are making their own moves now, independent of governments. Crop circles, mass sightings, even direct contact reports outside military circles, as if they're tired of waiting, as if they want us to know. Which raises a profound question. What if the choice to reveal isn't up to humans anymore? So where does that leave us? Are we on the edge of a revelation, or being pulled into a carefully managed illusion? Will the truth set us free, or will it just reshape the cage? One final thought before we close. In 2023, at a congressional hearing, former intelligence officer David Grush stated under oath that the U.S. has retrieved non-human craft and biologics. When asked if we've made contact, he said, "We are not alone, and the government has known for decades." But there were no arrests, no mass panic, just silence, as if the world heard the truth and chose not to process it. So maybe the real question isn't, when will disclosure happen? But rather, have you already seen enough to know the answer for yourself? Thank you for spending your time with Listen and Imagine. We hope this journey sparked your thoughts and stirred your imagination. If you enjoyed this experience, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment to let us know what you think. Your support helps Listen and Imagine continue to grow and bring more stories to life. Until next time, keep listening and keep imagining. Thank you.